Hey guys, Hayden here again from Alarm System Store, and today we're going to be going over how to enter and use the installer menu, or the installer wizard for the iQ Pro alarm system. So I have the system here. For those of you that are here just to see how to do that, the video is chaptered. You can find it down below. You can skip to that part if you just need the instructions. I'm also going to be going over basically how we're going to be doing our iQ Pro videos, because I wanted to kind of do them a little bit differently than we've done others in the past. So with the iQ Pro, it's a very robust system, so there's a lot to it. A lot of different features, a lot of different ways you can set things up, so on and so forth. So what I'm going to be doing is in this video, I'm going to be showing how to essentially use the installer app with the system. You can download the installer app from the Google Play Store, Apple App Store, or whatever this is called. Whatever the case might be, you should have access to the installer app. But basically, you have to download that app, and that is how you program the iQ Pro system. So there's a few steps to get it connected, so on and so forth, and that's what we're going to be going over today, as well as the installer wizard, which is basically a kind of a quick start. If you've ever used an install wizard for like a software on a computer, it basically just walks you through the steps needed, and you select a few things here and there, blah blah blah. Now the installer wizard for this is a little bit more, there's a little bit more to it, but basically we're going to be going over the different sections. I'm not going to be going into anything in depth today though. This is more of an intro video for the following iQ Pro videos that we're going to be doing, because the way I would like to lay it out is basically with this video, it's kind of the intro video. It shows you how to use the installer app, the wizard, and then everything else that you might want to do with the system, we're going to be going over in different videos. So later we'll show how to enroll wired keypads, wireless keypads. We'll show you different sensors, so burglary sensors, fire detectors, so on and so forth. But I'm going to separate it out so that each individual thing that you want to add to the system, you can just scroll through our playlist for the iQ Pro and find that specific video. So like I said, there's a lot to this, so I'm going to try and break it down as best I can. For starters though, like I said, we're just going to get the installer app going, and I'm going to show you how to pair it with the system, and then how to start the install wizard, and we're just going to go over the menus within the install wizard. So inside your iQ Pro, you will have a main board. It's kind of hard to move the whole system around, but just as an example, this is the iQ Pro. This is a cover that is normally sitting on top of this main board here. You don't need to take this off for any reason. I only did because I'm trying to show you guys basically how to do this. So this piece right here is basically just a cover for the main board, like I mentioned. Right here is your serial number, your IMEI number. You'll need that if you get alarm.com services, and you also get a QR code right here. This QR code is how you actually pair the installer app to the system. So you can leave this on there, but when you go to pair the system, right here on the side, you'll see this little symbol. And if you look here, there's a little button. Now, when this is on the main board of the system, you have to press that button and hold it for a couple seconds, and that turns on the pairing mode. So basically, I'm going to do that off screen, but just know the installer app shows this as well. But basically, when you go to pair it, you hold this little button in for a couple seconds. The light on the panel is going to flash, and once it starts flashing, I believe it's red, then you can actually pair the installer app. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to pull up the installer app on my phone, and then we're basically just going to go through the steps of pairing it, and then I'll, like I said, step you through the installer wizard. So give me just 1 second to pull up my screen recording it, and I'll be right back. Okay, so I have the installer app pulled up. It just looks like this whenever you get it started. Basically just has a start button. So what you're going to do is you're going to click start, and then it's going to ask you for the serial number and the IMEI. You can enter those manually if you wish, or you can scan the QR code that is on the cover for the main board. So if you click scan QR code, it's going to bring up your camera, and that's how quick it can pick up the QR code if you're already looking at it. But basically, it plugged in the information there, as you'll see there on the side of the screen. Click continue, and then it's going to tell you what to do. So like I mentioned a minute ago, this little button on the side here, it's actually a button on the main board, so I'll be doing it over here. But basically you hold that down for a couple seconds and it will start the pairing mode. Once the system starts flashing, click continue, and you do have to turn your location on, so turn that on real quick. Click repeat, and now what it does is it tries to pair the app to the system using Wi-Fi. So it's setting up a local Wi-Fi connection directly from your phone to the iQ Pro system. So it's going to pop up here, and it will always say IQPNet, something, whatever yours ends up being. So you just click that, and it's going to say connecting. So give it a minute, let it do its thing, and eventually it will connect with the system, and it will literally just jump right into the installer wizard if this is the first time you've connected the app to this system. So this can take a couple minutes. Cannot connect to the panel. Let's try reconnecting. Sometimes it does have a slight issue like that, but right away it fixed itself. So it's going to ask you for an access code. Now this access code is basically it's asking which of the main codes for the system do you want to use, and that's going to give you different levels of access. So there is a master code, an installer code, and a dealer code. So by default, the master code is always 1234, the installer code is 1111, and the dealer code is 2222. So generally, if you're doing a DIY system, you want to use the dealer code just because that's going to give you access to every programming menu. And now, if you just need access to like change user codes or something, you can do that with the master code. Just programming a few zones or something, the installer code's fine. However, one thing to keep in mind is it's going to force you to change this code so that you basically have a custom code whenever you do so. So I'm going to enter 2222. For the dealer code. It's going to download data. It says default access codes expose your system to malicious users. Change it now. So it's going to force you to change the code just like I said. And I always use something super simple to remember, which is just 5555, which is actually the DSC installer code. So once you plug that in, it's going to say welcome and get started using our install wizard. Now, like I mentioned, if you have experience with alarm systems and you know how everything's wired up and you know what you're doing, this installer wizard is great. You can just plug everything into the panel right through here and it'll be set up when you're done. There are a few things that we have to do after the fact, like set up programmable outputs or start your service, so on and so forth. However, all the main components can be handled through this installer wizard. So you just click start, and it's going to go through, and it's going to want you to connect to your Wi-Fi. I'm actually going to skip this part. So up here at the top right, you can see these two arrows. You can use those to go forward and back within the installer menu. So if you press right, it's going to go to the next set of menu options, so on and so forth. Now the second page, this one does slow you down just slightly. It wants to go through and it wants to check the status of everything on the panel. So basically, as you can see here, the dual path test, that failed because it doesn't have anywhere to connect to. That's going to fail unless it can get both a cellular and Wi-Fi connection, which I didn't plug in Wi-Fi, so it's not going to work. AC status means it's plugged into your outlet. Battery status, I don't have a battery connected, so that's why that failed. And then it goes through and checks the cards that are within the system. So you have PowerG card, Z-Wave, Ethernet, cellular, and the very last option here is the download configuration. Now, that is only for if you have an existing Alarm.com account and you're swapping your existing system to the iQ Pro. You can kind of change over a lot of the features and a lot of the stuff that's already plugged in over to this new system. So most of the time that's not going to work because very few people will have Alarm.com set up prior to installing a new system. But you kind of just have to wait for it to finish. So I'm going to fast forward through this. Once it's done and it fails, I'll go ahead and move on. Okay, so that failed just as I said it would. So basically, once you see that, you can just click the right arrow there at the top again, and that's going to move you to the next section. The next section is your security sensors. So that means any sensor or keypad or module or whatever you're attaching to the system, you can set up in this menu. So by default, as you can see here, we have the core bus, which is the main board. The core bus is talking about the first set of 8 zones, the PGMs here, as well as the power and data terminals for your keypads, so on and so forth. Anything you need to set up on the main board, you'll do so right here. So if I had keypads connected, or if I had sensors connected, I could go ahead and plug all those in right now, and like I said, have it set up straight out of the install wizard. This is also the section where you can enroll wireless devices. So if you click the little plus button there at the bottom right, it's going to bring up adding a new device. You can auto learn, or you can manually enter the information for the PowerG sensor or keypad, whatever it is. So I don't have anything, like I said, I'm not going to do anything with this today. Just wanted to give you an overview. So I always recommend auto learning everything. If you have modules connected, like if you have wired keypads, zone expanders, or a power supply, or anything that is adding to the wired portion of this system, you'll click auto learn and it will actually go through and it'll connect all those devices for you. You don't have to do anything. Auto learn is also where you're going to want to do your wireless devices. So once you have the hardwired stuff auto learned in and it knows, all the devices that are going to be connected, you can go through and plug in the info for those. And then wireless devices, you want to do the auto learn because that forces the sensor to make a connection with the panel. If you do the manual PowerG enrollment, it doesn't make a connection. The system just knows that it needs to connect to that. However, it can fail to do so, and then you have to go through a little bit of troubleshooting once you get past that. So that's why I always recommend auto learn. Just follow the steps in the manual for your sensors or your keypad or whatever, and it will tell you how to pair it with whatever device you're connecting it to, which is going to be the iQ Pro. So from there, you can click the top right arrow again, and that is going to move you again to the next section, which is going to be automation devices. Most people aren't going to have these right off the bat. Generally, you're going to want to have Alarm.com's automation service, because that's going to give you actual full control and automation of your devices, so on and so forth. However, if you have like some lights or whatever that you just want to go ahead and pair, you can do so here. Just know the installer wizard will time out, so that's another reason I don't really recommend doing it here. If you want to, you just hit the plus button and you can auto learn, you can manually add them, so on and so forth. But generally, I just skip this section and then do it afterwards because it's easier and makes more sense to me. So you click the right arrow again, takes you to iQ remotes. So iQ remotes are the primary wireless keypads that you will use with the iQ Pro system. They are the ones that provide probably the most user-intuitive user interface, and that is because they are modeled after the iQ Panel 4 or iQ Panel 2, which are very modern, and they kind of work like a tablet. They're just tablet touchscreen keypads, and they're very easy to use. So if you have some of those, you can pair those right here. You can do that because there are 2 ways that you enroll iQ remotes. You can do so in the PowerG section if you have one of the newer iQ remotes that features a PowerG connection. If you don't, though, and you have one of the older iQ remotes, that actually uses Wi-Fi to connect to the panel. So this is where you'll connect the Wi-Fi version or the Wi-Fi portion of even the PowerG keypads if you want to have both connections. Generally with PowerG, you only need the PowerG connection, so that's what I do. But anyway, moving on. Next is going to be users. It allows you to change the admin. Well, let me back up. For users, depending on what code you plugged in to begin with, it will allow you to set specific other codes. So because I entered the dealer code and that gives me the most access, I can change any other code on this system. I can change the dealer code, installer code, master code, and all user codes. If you plug in only the installer code, it takes away your ability to change the dealer code. You can do installer, master, and users. If you just plug in the master code, you can only change the master code and the user codes. So that's the same for pretty much any alarm system that features, different ways to add users. Basically, whatever level of access you go into the system with, it's going to give you that permission to set, that level of access and below. So hopefully that makes sense. However, if you do need to add users or whatever, you can do so right here, and you can change all the codes that I mentioned as well. Moving on from there, it's going to ask you to plug in the dealer name, phone number, and website. You can do this if you're the installer. If you're doing it yourself, you can plug in whoever's information you bought the system from, or whoever you're going to have as your Alarm.com service dealer, because this is just going to give you an easy way to pull up their information if you need it. So you plug that in, click the right arrow again, brings up the update page. So now that, in theory, if you have everything set up on the system already, what it's going to do now is it's going to want to update to the latest firmware version. So you can do that automatically just by clicking the start button. It'll check with Qualsys servers, see if there's any updates available, and it will automatically update to the latest version. You can also go in at any other time once you've done this and check for any updates, so on and so forth. Moving on from there, that's it. So it's a very quick process. If you did have a lot of devices that you were connecting and you had wireless sensors and everything, it would take a while. You're going to sit in that security section for a while, plugging in names or labels of your devices, the labels of your keypad sensors, whatever you want to do. And then you also have to set the parameters for how they work. But for the most part, this system is super simple. It's just very unique. This is the first one we've had that uses an app to program it, so it's very different than all the other videos that you'll find on our site. So that's why I'm kind of breaking it out a little bit more, trying to make it more simple for you guys to find and just do whatever it is that you need to do. So anyway, once you're done, you just click the finish button and it's going to bring up the dashboard. Now we're going to get into this in a later video, but basically this is the dashboard. It's going to tell you all the information that you need to know about your system. So it shows the devices on your core bus, it shows troubles, it shows the status of the different aspects like your Wi-Fi, your cell signal, AC power, and battery, so on and so forth. And then there's also the configuration section. This is how you get back into the programming if you need to change anything. There's an events section, so you can see everything that's happened on the system. So you can see we basically opened it up, and you'll get a lot of this stuff right off the bat when it first powers up because it kind of goes through a lot. But for the most part, the events will just keep you up to date on whatever's recently happened with your system. On the right here, you have some tests. You can run the Wi-Fi test, cellular test, daughter card tests, basically all the things that it checked during that installer wizard. You can go back and manually check each and every one of those if you wish to do so. One thing to keep in mind, this is where you do the cellular test if you're setting up Alarm.com service. The cellular test is required to connect the panel to Alarm.com, so you have to do that cellular test there. So keep this menu in mind if you have to set up service. And then on the right is a settings option, and that is just for settings of the app. You can change the language, the theme, temperature, scale, whether it's Celsius, Fahrenheit, so on and so forth. Just a few options there, and that's pretty much it for the app. Like I said, we're going to be going more in depth on all this later on, so hopefully this was enough information to get you guys started. Like I said, this is kind of just an intro video to our entire iQ Pro playlist, so I wanted to give a quick overview of how this all works so that you can watch this and then you can just go find what it is that you're trying to add or change or whatever, and you guys can get it done as quickly as possible. So check out the playlist below. We will be adding these basically one video a week, maybe two if I can manage it. However, if you can't find a video specific for yours and you purchased your equipment from us, by all means reach out. We can help you get through it and do what you need to do. But like I said, here in a few months, hopefully we'll have a slew of videos out for the system, so you guys can just go there and find what you need and you'll be good to go. So let us know if you have any interest in the iQ Pro system. At alarmsystemstore.com, we have these, we have the metal cabinet versions, and as long as Our suppliers are keeping up with stock. We can get the other versions of the iQ Pro and pretty much any device that you're going to need with it. The only thing we don't specifically carry is the addressable sensors that you can use with that, and we probably won't do videos on it either just because we don't carry them, so I won't have any here to actually set up. Anyway, thank you guys for watching. If you don't mind, leave a like and subscribe. If you have any questions, you can leave them in the comments, or you can reach out to us at alarmsystemstore.com. But I will catch you guys on the next one.